luminary, when things are feeling like they're shifting and shaking, the thing that we can always come back to is our sense of home and belonging. In this episode, I want to talk to you about how to create your own belonging and how to call in your people, especially when things feel like they're shifting and shaking and you just want a little bit of steady ground. So, in today's episode, we're going to do some full moon reflections, some Mercury retrograde reflections, and I'm going to share with you and give you the keys to how to find your soul customers and people using your astrology. Welcome to Star Powered Astrology for Changemakers. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your guide, a Hawaii-born Filipino Jewish astrologer who loves navigating visionaries like you through the spiritual journey of your work so that you can be inspired to lead by your chart and become the luminary leader you were born to be. Okay, friends, so thank you for your patience while we've been gone for a little bit. There is nothing more than contrast, meaning not having something that really puts everything into perspective and appreciation. I've been gone for a few weeks because we've had some ripples in our lives here, and we weren't able to put together any podcasts. And we're back now. We're slowly getting back in, and there's just been so many things that we've missed out on, to cover and to catch up on, that I was like, you know what? Let's just have a few minutes of reflection, because we've all been going through some massive changes in our personal lives, in our work lives, in the sky. I'm recording this on Tuesday, August 20th, and we just had a big super full moon, super moon, also a full moon in Aquarius yesterday. And so we're still feeling in those energies of that Aquarius full moon. We are at the tail end of Leo season with just 2 more days to go in this dog days of summer. And then we also are at the end, the last final week of Mercury retrograde. And so all of these energies they're a winding down. That crest of that wave has passed us. And this is the perfect time to reflect back on our learning lessons, to reflect back on how we managed all of this change, whether or not we got dysregulated, whether or not we feel grounded, whether or not we feel alone and isolated, or whether or not we feel supported. All of that is coming into full view right now that the light is waning from this full moon. So I want to talk about, like all of these energies are compiling into this idea of reflection. If we go all the way back to the Mercury retrograde, that was, going from Virgo and now into Leo, that Mercury retrograde really wanted us to rekindle our joy, figuring out how we can create our lifestyle and our habits and reintegrate things that we used to love doing so much and wrapping that back into our lives. I know that I've returned to a regular practice of yoga, and I actually started putting my habit sheets together, these really wonderful sheets where it doesn't say, drink 32 ounces of water, eat your broccoli. It's not like that. It's not that fine-tuned and detailed. It has a lot of flexibility. Like every day, move your body. Every day, eat a meal primarily of vegetables. Every day, create, whether it is playing music or getting back into writing. Every day, connect, whether it's with my family or with my clients. There's that personal connection. And every day, devote, spending time with spirit, which can be double duty when I do yoga or hula, because that's both moving body and devotion, or whether or not I'm pulling cards and journaling. And so I have these habits that I'm really like just putting back into my life, because I know that I do so much better when I have these routines. That's that Mercury retrograde. And then the last few days of Leo season is asking us, like, what have we lit up? Leo is the ultimate sign of the sun and light. And when we talk about the sun sign in our leadership and in the way that we make a mark in this world, it's absolutely the energy that that flows from within us, that radiates out, that lights us up from within. And if we're not tending to that fire, if we're not kindling it with the things that it needs to burn fully and brightly, we can get our light gets diminished or the clouds cover. And so, what lights us up? What lights up our Leo courage and creativity and heart? What has been lit up for you? And then, of course, this full moon energy. Now, the full moon is currently in Pisces. And while yesterday's full moon was a very prickly kind of full moon, and I say prickly because it had a lot of fixed energy. We had the Aquarius moon sitting across from the sky from that Leo sun and Mercury, forming a T square with Uranus in Taurus. And then if you all have any Scorpio energies at those late degrees, whew, what a day that was. For me, my anxiety was like really at an all-time high. And if I hadn't had my own personal tools of recognizing that this was a very energetic day, I might have gone a little bit wacky or had a very short temper or, just had zero patience. But yesterday, instead, what I did was I intentionally harnessed that Aquarian energy, that electrical energy, and I used it in creative, constructive ways. And so when we have these kinds of prickly energies, we all have a choice of how we're going to use these energies, how we're going to react and respond to these energies. And that's why it's really good to have that foresight, looking at the astrology that's coming up, but also looking back and reflecting if you could have done anything differently, what you would want to change the next time, and also celebrating if you did a good job, like I thought I did a good job of actually self-regulating, because there was a lot of energy like amping up on my natal sun in Aquarius. The moon was there, the sun is shining right across. For me, I tell you these stories not because I want to tell you about me, but I want to lead by example to show you that, hey, I'm walking in the same shoes. I had been invited to do some to write some articles and to speak with this astrology conference, and I've had this application invitation on in my inbox since July, and I was really, really scared to apply. I mean, I talk about astrology, I teach astrology, I have a podcast and a YouTube channel all on astrology. I have a membership on astrology. I'm talking about astrology all day. And yet I couldn't respond to this application to share my perspective of astrology in this astrology community. I had to really sit with myself and I journaled. Why am I scared? I'm not good enough. People won't like my perspective. I'm not a good enough speaker. It all came down to like the not enoughness and the being too different. I was like, thank you, Aquarius full moon, for sharing this with me. And I didn't run away. I sat there, I explored my fears in terms of like why I wasn't going through with this. And then I sat down. And of course, once I sat down and decided to put together my topics and hit that button to enter in my topics, I was like, oh, that wasn't so hard after all. But it was really, truly me facing my fears. We all have these fears. And when we reflect back to this Aquarius full moon, that T square with Uranus was really about like, what are you afraid of or not feeling enough because of your differences? And to flip the switch and to realize it is your differences, your unique perspectives, your unique approach, the way your lived experiences that give you this beautiful belief and values and perspectives that your people are looking for. So it's the exact same thing that I was afraid of, being too different, out there having this very different perspective that is the exact same thing that my people are looking for. looking towards for me. So, with all of this said and all of this reflection, I want you to notice that the themes of this Mercury retrograde about rekindling that joy within you so that you can feel that courage and that confidence, and the last days of Leo season so that you can really light up how you shine brightly so that you can light other people up. That's that true Leo leadership. And then that Aquarius full moon getting you full face to face about what you're afraid of or not feeling enough or too different. It's noticing that those are actually your strengths that are going to allow you to connect to your people. All of this is a goal, a result, so that you can call in your people. If you are a leader or a change maker or a healer, or whoever you are, you know that you're not working in a silo. You need your people. And so in today's episode, I really want to give you the keys, your astrological keys to call in your people. This is a shortened replay of my free masterclass, Captivate, that I had last week that I didn't get a chance to share fully in public yet. So I'm giving you the keys to your astrological partnership, soul customer, soul people, so that you can call in your people. Now, the main thing that I'm going to tell you, and this is what I fully covered in that masterclass. Yes, you can know the archetype of your soul customers. You can know the language that you need to call them in. You can know the kind of car that they want, the timing and the cycles and the life that they're going through, the life-changing things that you can spark within them. You can know all of that, my friend. But if you are not embodying your own natal design, your sun sign, your moon sign, and specifically your rising sign, yep, that's it. If you don't know yourself and if you're not embodying the highest potentials of your star powered leadership as seen from your sun, moon, rising, your soul customers will never be able to see you. So in this next part of the podcast that I want to show you is that yes, you can look at your soul people. I'm going to give you the astrological archetype and key to call in your soul customer, your soul partners, your soul collaborators. And I'm going to give you the archetypal key to call in your soul communities and platforms and social impact makers, your friends. I'm going to give you those two keys. Yet those keys are not going to work if you don't unlock the first thing about embodying yourself. If you are a leader, and I know you are, you need people. You need people to co-create with, to collaborate with, to have some competitive edge so that we stretch each other to do our very, very bests. We all need people. And if you've been searching for a community of soulpreneurs, spiritual leaders, purpose led entrepreneurs, and visionaries, well, I have a global community for you. My membership and community, Star Powered Circle, is opening up for the third trimester of 2024. Our kickoff ceremony is on September 2nd, which means there is about a week to join Star Powered Circle. We have about 40 global members, everybody from Australia to Europe to the UK, Canada, United States, Mexico, Portugal. We have people from all over the world. And when I say this is a diverse community, I don't simply just mean the shades of our skin. We have people in their 20s approaching their first Saturn return, all the way to people who've surpassed their second Saturn return. We have people doing all kinds of things from creatives and healers all the way to lawyers and accountants and psychotherapists. This is true diversity. And we all come together for a shared love of astrology and how do we tap into our luminary leadership. We are all here to make a mark in this world. Are you ready to join us and tap into parts of yourself and be surrounded with people who are on similar paths to you, looking to make a difference in this world? So if this is you, I want you to already head on over to starpower.com/circle and come join us. And if you're, still waiting or on the fence, take a listen to the rest of this podcast as I share with you all of the astrological keys you need to unlock your connection to your soul people and your soul customers, of course, using your astrology. All right, tune in. And it says, be yourself so that the people looking for you can find you. And one of the things, even though we are coming to this place of attracting and captivating our soul customers cannot find us if we are not ourselves. And if you are running a business, if you are an entrepreneur, or you are working in corporate and as a change maker, to be a leader, you get to choose. Well, sometimes if you're in corporate America, you don't always get to choose, but you get to choose your allies. You get to choose who you lead, who you co-create, who you lift up. And how you guide others is written in the stars. And as you guide others, this in turn lights you up. Because I do believe that we are all here to be and born as a luminary. You must be here because you are a change maker, someone who will not or cannot work in the status quo or in conventional fields, someone who wants to dismantle oppressive systems, someone who wants to serve to create a better, more just world. Maybe you're an entrepreneur, a healer, an activist, whatever your vocation, to make your mark, to change the world, to call in your people, you must again and again revolutionize something deep within your luminary leadership. So today, when we're thinking about our leadership, a lot of times, yes, we are looking within, but now I want to expand that circle because our leadership requires people. If we are just in our own little cubbyhole doing our own thing, guess what? We're not going to have a business. We're not going to have a community. We're not going to have collaborators. We're not going to have customers. And so today I want to burst open the seams and not just look within, but also looking outwards, looking at who our people are. So today I want to share with you what the problems are when you don't know your people. And you probably already know what the problems are when you don't know your people. But I also want to dive into the astrology and show you who your people are as they are represented in the natal chart. I also want to share with you the number one key that you need so that they can find you, right? And that little hint is that little girl who's dancing in her own way. And then 4 other ways, I put 5 here, but 4 other ways to captivate your audience using astrology. By the end of our masterclass today, I want you to understand how to connect to your soul people. When I say soul people, I mean communities, customers, co-creators. I would love to know from you where you are on that journey. Do you feel that you're really connected to those that you're meant to serve, or do you feel disconnected? And for all of us, even if you are a yes, I'm sure you're looking for that deeper connection. So I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but let's take a look at some of the things that happen when we don't know our soul people. But what it comes down to me is that when we don't know who our soul people are, we feel really uncommitted. When we are uncommitted, guess what? We attract uncommitted people. And what I mean by uncommitted is that if you're not able to commit to yourself, commit to your own goals, commit to you what you want, commit to, if one of your goals is to go to yoga once a week and you can't commit to that, then guess what kind of people you're going to be calling into your life. Now, sometimes in our leadership and in our businesses, this uncommittal looks like we're chasing other people. We're saying yes to other people. I had this long string of like, I would have clients who wouldn't pay me. I'd be like, I did the work. Why won't you pay me? And I would still go back and say yes to people. Oh, I never want to go back to those days. If you don't know your soul people, you feel unimportant. You feel that you could disappear and nobody would even know. You feel that you have little value. There's nobody that can like refer you to others. Your offers are too wide, so they're not like really dedicated. And that's just a terrible, terrible feeling. And one of the other things that I noticed when you don't know your people is uncertainty, right? I had this for so long, right? Like, I don't know why people would ghost me. We'd have these great conversations and I would send out a proposal and I would get ghosted. Or I'd be focusing on all of the wrong things, just like totally uncertain, just chasing at things because I wasn't calling in my soul people. Does anybody else feel like this? Because you know what? This is what happens when you know your people. When you know your people, that uncommittal turns into commitment. We're going to be talking a lot about this idea of commitment because, especially in a paid partnership or with a client, not just a romantic partner, that commitment is everything. You must be as committed to that person as that person is committed to you. It creates focus, crystal clarity. That's why contracts are really, really important. Whether you're, like a romantic marriage license or a contract in your business, those terms and conditions, those are your commitment that outlines those relationships. When you know your soul customer, you are magnetic. You call them in by connecting with their hopes and dreams. You know them so well that you speak directly to their hearts. And when you know your soul customer, you become impactful. And this is impactful because when you know so clearly who you serve, when you have a friend that's out there and they hear about somebody's like, oh, I know somebody who's looking for a lawyer for moms who drive Volvos, just making very specific things up. They're going to be like, yes, I know somebody for you. And that way our impact can ripple out forward. Okay. And so I want you to feel committed. I want you to feel magnetic. I want you to feel impactful because to me, that is what it means to be captivating. It's not about doing a fancy dance. It's not about putting on the best makeup. It's not about looking good. It's absolutely about feeling good. Okay. Now, when we think about our soul customer or our ideal customer, I'm going to be using these words interchangeably. And I really want us to open up to this idea of our soul person. I'll get into that more a little bit later. But your soul person, your soul customer, is not an avatar because it would be more like I work for lawyers who are women, who are moms, who drive luxury cars. Well, I can tell you that I know a lot of moms who are lawyers, and I have friends that like their Teslas, and I have friends that like their Volvos, and I like friends that like their BMWs. And the reasons why they like those are very, very different. One wants safety. She's very protective of her kids. One wants prestige. She wants to look good on the road. And one just loves buying expensive shit. Right? And so when you know those things, that is what I mean by speaking to their heart and getting into their feelings. Avatar, demographics, all of these are really good starting points and who you should be working with. right? Oh, you have all of this experience working with construction people. You should be working with architects. I don't want to work with architects. Maybe that's what you might be saying, right? So these are the things that your customer is not, and it's a really great starting point. Only a starting point. When you really get to the heart of who your soul people are, and this is my soul partner Jeff in my business. These partnerships are ever evolving. If you grow, which you are evolving, your soul person will grow with you. And you know what? Sometimes they don't grow with you. Your soul person is someone you love working with. Of course, if you have a job, if you're working for someone else, you don't always have this ability to choose who you are working with. But if you own your own business and you don't love the people that you're working with, why? Why are you working with them? And your soul people are energetically magnetized to your star powers. This is what we're going to be talking about in terms of the astrology. And lastly, that word committed. Guess what? If you really love somebody and they can't give you an energetic exchange, like I don't have any money or I don't have anything to offer you, then they might not be a soul customer of yours. Unless you're a philanthropist or you're a nonprofit and you're helping them in other ways and they're giving you other things. That energetic exchange, it's not always about money. But if you're in a position in your business where you really need to be earning money, then you need to be finding committed partners who are going to pay you. Okay. So before we dig into the good stuff, I want you to make a promise to yourself. Because I am handing you the keys to the kingdom about how to connect to the heart and soul of a person. The thing is that this information can be used to manipulate. This information can be used to fearmonger. We are not creating leadership or businesses where we have to coerce or convince people to work with us. If you're feeling the urge to need to manipulate people to make a decision or using fear mongering and scarcity tactics, like we can see people's fears. Absolutely. Promise me and promise yourself that you will not do this. This is not the type of leadership that we are creating here. So I promise to be the best version of me based on my unique leadership. I promise to not manipulate my customers by focusing only on their pain points. I promise not to amplify my own leadership style, or I promise to amplify my own leadership style to attract the right people and experiences. I promise to not need to know everything or pretend to be perfect. And I promise to keep evolving and keep the customers that evolve with me. Yeah, Heather says, been on the receiving side of that fear, right? I feel like we are coming to this new level in kind of like the coaching and the service and the help industry where it's really starting to implode because of a bunch of bad actors who were overcharging, tying people's money up, making them commit to things that they didn't need, and all from this place of fear that you're broken. There's something wrong with you, and I have this one thing. We're not doing that anymore. Okay, look at where that has gotten us. So no fear mongering here. Okay, so let's get in. Let's get into it because I know this is the part that you've been waiting for. Your number one key. This is the thing that that I promise you, if you do this one thing, you will be a magnet. And I already told you what it is. It's know yourself. I know people are like, really? And we should be, yes, it is. It's so exciting because you know what? If you don't know yourself, Again, you're just going to be playing roles. Like I mentioned earlier, when I was single and lonely for decades of my life, I just remember so like just being so upset. And I pretend to be all of these different people. And it was life crushing because I didn't like myself enough to want to know myself. I was always trying to be someone else. Like my closet was full of all of these different kinds of clothes that just didn't fit me, didn't look good on me because like I was just trying on all of these things. It just drained my energy. I was so ashamed of parts of myself. Like I didn't want to be Filipino. I didn't want to be Jewish. I didn't want to be all of these things. And I would hide and make myself small. It was soul sucking. I didn't value who I was. I was demoralized. I didn't understand what was written in the stars, my own astrology. I was aimless and in the dark, right? So, of course, I wasn't attracting anybody because, as Heather says, I was playing small. I was just teeny tiny, so ashamed. Nobody was going to save me. Nobody wanted to be around that. So, that's why I was lonely. I had to love myself first. But to know yourself is hard, especially in our society where we've been given these kind of like models of what we should be. Right? Here's the perfect mom model. Here's the perfect corporate leader model. Here's the perfect, billionaire model. Here's the perfect pop star model. All of these stupid models that none of us fit into, right? We try to be everyone. But oftentimes when we look to our astrology, starting with our sun sign, our moon sign, our rising sign, our descendant, this all of a sudden puts everything into place. It feels like it gets all organized and it settles through. And you're like, ah, my sun sign, can I really truly appreciate what I do so naturally? What gives me creative juice? What opportunities I can then go after for myself? If I understand my moon sign, what I need, these underlying motivations, and bring them to the surface out of the unconscious, subconscious to the conscious, so that I don't feel like I'm just this victim. My moon sign tells me what I need to feel secure. Your rising sign, how? How you go about doing things, how you initiate, how you guide, how you present yourself, how you lead. But when you know yourself, you will also know who you are born and designed to partner with, what issues you are meant to resolve. Okay. I have a bunch of classes that allow you to dig deeper into who you are, what you are here to do, why you do it, how you do it, starting with Written in the Stars and the first of my astrobrand method called Star Powered Position. Of course, I also do readings if needed. So that's number one. Okay. Number two, the most important part of knowing who you are is then stepping into that charm power, the how you do it. And this is your rising sign. Okay, so if you don't know your rising sign again is based on the time and place of your birth. You can go to a free website calculator like astro.com and type in your birthplace, your birth time. If you don't know your birth time, you need a referral to a rectification astrologer. A rectification astrologer can reverse engineer the time of your birth based on some of your big life events. And so if that is you, will you send me an email later and I will refer you to some of the rectification astrologers, because knowing your time of birth is really important. Okay. So how you lead, right? This is one of those biggest questions in terms of like, well, what is my leadership style? If I'm a Cancer rising, Cancer risings are not leaders. Well, why aren't Cancer risings leaders? Have you ever noticed what a gentle touch or a hug from you does to lift a person up? Karen with the beautiful Libra rising and that connection. So, our rising sign, why it's so important and why it's called the how. To me, the rising sign is that first impression that you give with people. People are already expecting you to be this rising sign. And if any of us here have that kind of like, oh, I don't really like my rising sign, guess what? Our rising sign is a stretch. The first time I found out that I was a Gemini rising, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a Gemini. I'm all over the place. I'm so scattered. I'm so this, I'm so that. I'm too much. I'm this. But when I learned to embrace my Gemini rising and knowing that I was here to speak, to teach, that I was a natural born teacher, I was like, oh, that's right. I do love teaching. I love hearing other people. I love engaging in dialogue. And so your rising sign is the how you present yourself, how you guide others. It is your first step in leadership, your first key into your leadership style. And until you learn and accept and embrace your rising sign and step into that full power, this is the energy that is going to allow you others to see you. And so for those of us who have some of like the water signs like Scorpio, Pisces, or Cancer, right? Our society hasn't ever modeled these more feminine qualities as being leaders, right? So we're thinking to ourselves, well, nurturing somebody that can be leadership. Absolutely. Cancer rising is so important because it creates belonging, it creates safety. If safety does not exist, if acceptance and validation does not exist, nothing can grow. That softness allows our roots to deepen. Okay. T says, what if your rising sign changed because you have relocated? Do you embody two rising signs then? Until you have mastered your original rising sign from the original imprint of your soul at your birthplace, then I wouldn't consider that next rising sign because that first imprint is always there. Okay. And then that depth of that Scorpio who empowers instead of disempowers. Yeah, Scorpio is one of those other rising signs that is really misunderstood a lot of times, and it comes from maturity. An immature Scorpio is going to manipulate. And it's not manipulating because it consciously wants to be like this bad person and a manipulator, but it's testing out its powers. Okay. So Scorpio, instead, as it matures, or if you're working with Scorpio clients and they're growing into this next evolution, they're learning to trust. They're learning to share and build power instead of power over. Okay. Lisa says, I always think of Virgo as structured and analytical, and I see myself more as soft. Yes. So their Virgo energy, it can Virgo isn't so much as structured and analytical unless you're in that analysis paralysis and that perfectionism of the shadows of Virgo. Because Virgo wants coherence, Virgo wants wholeness, Virgo wants an integration of mind, body, spirit. So if any of us have any judgments over our rising sign or any of our big three signs, then I encourage us to really reframe some of those. And I'm going to give you a tool in just a little bit on how to reframe some of those judgments. And so when you'll hear me talk about these archetypes a lot, because an archetype is a zodiac is essentially an archetype. It's an original pattern or model woven through culture and mythology, means that every culture will understand that archetypal energy. Okay. This word archetype appears in behavior, psychology, history, mythology, story. And again, yes, every culture will understand this idea of a character or an archetype. And so that's why I love coming back to these zodiacs because they're almost the original archetypes. And I have a free program. This is just a free offer. If you want to go to starpowered.com/audio program or audio, either one will take you there. I have a program with an email sequence that helps you dive into your four main archetypes: sun, moon, rising, and descendant. And the goal of these archetypes and going through all of going in depth, they're about an hour long each, is for you to reframe those places that you may feel, I'm too Leo, or Aries is too aggressive, or Virgo is too structured, right? If you have those twos or those shoulds, you know that there is some reframe that needs to be done. So this is a free offer for you. If you want to go through that, please do. Alicia says, I'm halfway through the program. Really good and informative. Thank you, Alicia. So knowing what your rising sign is and stepping into that rising sign is your second key, because your second key is directly related to your descendant. Your rising sign and your descendant are on polar opposites. And your descendant, the sign on the seventh house, is the archetypal energy of your soul partners. Whether this be your romantic partner, your soul customer, your collaborators, your known competitors. That seventh house that sits opposite of your rising. Okay. And I know this is getting into a little bit of a deeper astrology, but I'll show you the polarity pairs in just a little bit. There is a magnetic attraction between the archetypes. Now, this doesn't mean that all of your soul partners, your committed partners, your collaborators, your customers, it doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily be the sign, but they are going to embody the energy of that archetype. You all here are going to be part of that Sagittarius and a little bit of Aries energy. You are passionate. You are purposeful. You are looking for your path. You are looking to create hope and optimism in this world. And so you know the shadows of this seventh house really well. Because when I say that projection, this is oftentimes like if you're in a committed romantic partnership, you might be going to your partner and you might be judging them for all of those shadows of the seventh house. You know this very well, but sometimes you don't internalize it. You project it onto another person. So for the Sagittarius, I might tell my husband, you're always so impulsive. You're never planning for anything. And I do say that. And so by understanding the seventh house, it represents so much. This might be another one that you might want to take a picture of. If you've been watching the Paris Olympics, you know that the American goat of all times, Simone Biles, got the silver medal to Brazilian Rebecca Andrade. This is such a beautiful picture of collaboration over competition. When you are at such a high level, they were not competing against each other. They were competing against themselves and celebrating each other for their successes. Simone Biles wouldn't have learned more difficult and more difficult what do you call dances? Oh my gosh, words, Leslie. Performances, routines. Thank you, Ishel. If it wasn't for Rebecca, who was pushing herself to do even more and more. So can you see that even when we have so-called competitors, we're working together to push each other. And so for all of us, even when you're looking out into your field and seeing all of the other people who are doing the things, similar things that you're doing, nobody is doing it like you. And you guys are collaborators, not competitors. So this seventh house key, maybe this is a customer of yours. Maybe this is a soul partner, like a collaborator where you're coming together and building something else. Or maybe these are different kinds of, people that you're bringing together as people in your field. Okay. Know that energy. And then if you meet somebody and they're like, oh, do you want a partner? And they're not embodying that seventh house energy for you, then you have, different decisions to make, okay? So these polarities will always be together. So if you're an Aries or a Libra rising, these are your polarities, your polar opposites. You're always playing with this idea of the me versus the we. The Taurus Scorpio, You're playing with what's mine, what's ours. We have Gemini Sagittarius playing with ideas versus ideals. The Cancer Capricorn are dealing with security and reputation at home and in public. Leo and Aquarius are on the same axes of creativity, whether it's play versus impact. And Virgo Pisces, this is wellness, about routine and flow. Okay, so even just diving into that and feeling into that should give you some ideas of how to connect to your soul customers. Okay, the next key is taking a deeper dive into your seventh house. This is going to get a little bit deeper into the astrology. So if this goes over your head a little bit, if you're a newbie to astrology, please forgive me, but this is a little bit deeper for those who really want to dive into the astrology. So when you have that seventh house archetype, of course, that's your starting point. If you have another full sign in your seventh house, I use Placidus, or if you're using another house system, like another quadrant house system, you might have another full sign in your seventh house. And if you do, you're going to be weaving that into the primary archetype. So you can see in this example here, we have Virgo at 29 degrees. This is still primarily a Virgo soul customer, even though they have all of Libra in it. You can see with this chart example, there's Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto and Venus. Each of these planets will inform you about what that person needs. So this person is looking how to build wholeness and integration. They're looking for relationship, like how to create stronger relationships in their business. They need help with Jupiter's seeing the bigger picture, Saturn's structure, Pluto's power, and Venus, again, back to relationships and beauty. And so there's many ways to interpret this. We won't be able to go deep dive into interpreting all of that, but if you're already an astrologer, or if you want to start looking at, the different planets in the seventh house, and also looking at the ruler of the seventh house. So the ruler of Virgo is Mercury. You can't see it here, but Mercury is buried under this black line in the eighth house. This will also show you a little bit of how more information about directing this soul customer. So there's so many different layers of information. And if you're just starting out, simply start with the opposite of your rising sign, which is the seventh house archetype. If you don't have anything in your seventh house, it means that your seventh house experience in this lifetime wasn't that big of a deal for you. And it also means nothing else. There's not as much specificity that goes into your seventh house client, kind of the astrographics of that, but there's still a lot going on in there. Perfect. So I know I have a lot of slides left to cover, and so I'm just going to be going on to these slides really, really quickly. I wish I had more time. And these are just going through some of the interactions if you have a planet or the sign on that seventh house cusp. I'm going to go through these very, very quickly. Sun, if you have Sun in the seventh house or Leo in the seventh house, here are some desires. Here are some blocks. If you have Moon and Cancer, they will be desiring more nurturing, more safety and self-care, more acceptance. They might be suffering from being a martyr. If you have Mercury or Gemini and Virgo, they're looking for self-expression. They might be suffering from being unclear or overwhelmed. Wrong spelling here. Venus with Taurus and Libra, right? They desire to be connected, to have more abundance and worth and value. They might be suffering from low self-esteem or not being able to attract what they want. For Mars, if you have this in the seventh house, they want to take action. They want to be their very best, but they might be suffering from fear or even anxiety. or always needing to fight. With Jupiter, they might want to expand. They might want to believe, they might want to get to their purpose, but they might be suffering from judgment or being able to see the whole picture. If you have Saturn there, they might need structures or boundaries, but they might be suffering from self-doubt. Uranus, they want innovation, they want to be liberated, but they might be suffering from disruption, being unpredictable. Scroll ahead. Neptune, desiring spirituality and unity, but suffering from disillusionment. Pluto, wanting more empowerment and transformation, but might be suffering from trauma, distrust, manipulation. Okay, so I know that was really fast. We only have so much. I teach a course that's like 2 hours long on just the Descendant. So I wanted to just kind of give you a really high level overview of the key that you're moving into. Okay, so that was your fourth key of looking into the details of that seventh house. Okay, the fifth key is your community. I'll be teaching you another astrological cusp to look at. There's an African proverb, and I wish I had the place from Africa where it's from. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. You need people. Just as like we need our people to support us, to help us. And so when we think about our people that we want to share that path with, oftentimes we think we can do it alone. I thought I could do it alone with all my self-help books. The audacity of me. I thought I was going to build a movement without any supporters. I had nobody to guide me to share their wisdom. I thought I was going to build a business without community. Crickets, no referrals, no fans. And I thought I was going to heal myself alone. Nope, it doesn't work that way. We all need community when we're doing these big things, a community of friends, a community that shares our social values, a community that wants to build impact together. And this is where the 11th house comes in. Where your 7th house are like each of these cusps represents somebody in your life. Okay. The 7th house relates to our people, the people that we are meant to commit with. But the 11th house relates to our communities, our platforms. So if you're building a podcast, or if you're building a community, or if you're building like this wide network of people, and you're like, who are my people? Oh, Aries. I work with Chiron Aries, wounded leaders. How about that? And I know that word wounded leaders doesn't sound really good, but what I mean by wounded leaders are leaders who didn't see themselves as leaders, but truly are leaders and who need to make an impact and difference in the world, who are trailblazing and changing the faces of leadership. That's what my community is about, change making. And so when you find your people, finding your community is knowing your people. So the same, going back to the 7th house, the same rules that I gave to you about the 7th house apply to the 11th house. Okay. And it's absolutely okay if you have no planets in your 11th house. You still have an archetypal sign there. So same rules about connecting to your people and speaking to them. Know your people, find your people, hire your people, help your people, heal with your people, and invite your people. So what is that archetype? How do you see that archetype showing up in your friend groups, in your communities? How do you appreciate those archetypes? And so when we think about our people, right, there's a subset between that Aries and that Sagittarius that you can also tune into. A lot of times they're going to be the same element. So for me, it's the fire element, right? That passionate, but it might not be, and that's okay. So finding your people. Okay. If you want to go deeper, I have a class Star Powered Position that I teach live every year that it always builds community. I also have my circle, which is a membership slash mastermind. And then I also have my Astrobrand certification where I mentor and teach people in a small group how to use this type of astrology. And I just love seeing people work together and come together and learn together and heal together. It is just always it blows my mind seeing what people do when they come together. And so at this part, we've kind of reached a little bit at the end. So when you look at your people, I want you to start understanding the archetypes of that 7th house cusp and that 11th house cusp. But remember, if you don't first know yourself, if you skip to the 7th house and the 11th house, you're going to be building on shaky ground, because the first thing, remember at the beginning, is know yourself. If you don't first know yourself and you're just looking for who your customers are and working on that, it's never going to work for you. So identify their dreams and their hopes, connect over their fears and frustrations, but do not manipulate using their fears and frustrations. You touch on their fears and frustrations to get an understanding, like, I know where you've been because, well, I've been there. Okay. And express these problems, these situations you are uniquely designed to solve in your words, how you see them, how you've experienced them. I know that in the chat, there was a lot of people saying, oh, how ironic. And I was like, well, is it ironic or is it synchronistic that you're actually working your design? You're actually working your star power. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. I hope that you picked up some really important keys on how to connect to your soul customers and how to call in your soul people. Because when we are on these paths of luminary leadership, we need our peers, we need our allies, we need our accountability people, we need people on similar paths so we can support each other. So if you're looking for that community and want to join us for the last trimester, the last 4 months of 2024, come on into the circle. It's going to be so much fun. Of course, we have our live training where we're going to be working on our opt-in or our lead magnet so that we can bring in regular customers into our businesses and into our worlds. We are also going to be having our eclipse Face Your Fear challenge, because we have our eclipse season. And of course, we'll be looking into 2025 in the stars as we get closer to December. We have meetups every month. We have star hours where you can get your questions asked with me. We have a full astrology library at different levels, depending on how much astrology you want to get in. We have our new moon ceremony so we can plant our seeds of intention together. And we also have full moon accountability groups. We also have some support groups for those of us that are working through different challenges in our businesses. So if you have questions, definitely let me know. Send me an email or send me a DM. I'd be happy to answer your questions. I'm really looking forward, if this calls you and this is a full body yes, to come join us for Circle from September through December 2024. Again, if this is you, head on over to starpowered.com/circle and sign up now. Now, last thing that I want to leave with you is that you are born to lead in your own way. And the first thing is to recognize yourself as a leader and to accept the way that you were born to lead. Step into that power, that highest potential, embody your leadership, and watch your people being captivated by you. All right, my friends, until next time, bye for now. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.